Parthiban Kanavu. English translation by Anand Kannan. Narrated by Sujatha, Anand. Book 2, Chapter 10. At the Port. Kundavi slept badly that night. The Choya prince's sad yet handsome face kept her awake. She finally fell asleep after midnight, but she was soon woken up by nightmares. In one of those, the prince had been buried neck deep in sand. A mad elephant was running towards him. In another minute, its large feet would stomp on his head. Kundavi rushed over to get in its way. The elephant just picked her up, put her on its back, and resumed its run. When Kundavi looked at the prince, his face had a contemptuous smirk. Kundavi woke up trembling and realized it was just a dream. When she was able to fall asleep again, the dream was no more pleasant. There was a row of stakes. The prince was brought there to be impaled. Kundavi rushed towards the scene and prayed to Durga, the goddess. The stakes caught fire. Delighted, Kundavi turned towards the prince just to realize the 12 soldiers surrounding him were going to pierce him with their spears. Kundavi screamed, woke up, and realized that she had fallen off the bed. She then gave up any attempt to sleep at that point. Her reason told her that her father's justice system did not allow barbaric punishments like impalement and having elephants trample people to death. The daybreak finally arrived. She wanted to talk to her father again about the prince, but she could not catch him alone. He took his leave from her and started walking. She could not contain herself. She called out, "Father, please remember what I said." Her father turned around. "What?" "Oh, you mean that thing you said about handing him a stiff punishment? I will keep that in mind." Then he left without looking back. Kundavi was overcome with helpless anger and sorrow. She threw herself on the bed and sobbed. The prince would now suffer a stiff punishment, thanks to her. If he ever came to know of her role in his misfortune, he would surely hate her. She agonized over such thoughts and decided that she had to do something. She summoned the palace administrator. "Udayavarma, please have someone watch the trial of the Choya prince and let me know the verdict as soon as it happens." The administrator sent someone to the court. Kundavi did not follow her routine that day. She did not go to the gardens to pick flowers. She did not go to the temples. She grit her teeth and waited for a message from the court. Finally, the messenger arrived. His summary was along these lines. The emperor was magnanimous and offered to forgive the prince and crown him as the king of the Choya kingdom if he agreed to pay tribute. The prince did not just turn down the offer, but also challenged the emperor to a duel. The emperor was then forced to sentence the prince. The usual punishment for such crimes would be death. Considering the prince's age, he was banished from the kingdom. The prince would be deported to a remote island and would be sentenced to death if he ever dared to return to the Choya country. The prince was taken to Mamalapuram after the sentence was pronounced. Kundavi was relieved that the prince was not sentenced to death. Still, the sad realization was that he would soon be sent away and she might never see him again. She wanted to see him again. Soon after she had that thought, it seemed to grow to possess her mind, body, and soul. She grew hopeful of convincing him to change his mind and accept being a vassal under her father. She wanted to meet her father, but she was informed that he rode away as soon as he pronounced his verdict. Kundavi thought for a while and summoned the administrator again. "Udayavarma, I need to go to Mamalapuram." I think I forgot my mother's necklace in the Mamalapuram palace. I need to go to find it. Udayavarman hesitated a bit and asked if it could wait for the emperor's return, and soon was taken aback by her fury. It was not common for the officials to question her decisions, so he made the arrangements, suppressing his surprise at her decision to travel alone at such short notice. Soon, Kundavi was on her palanquin and on the road with her entourage. She kept urging the carriers to go faster, displaying uncharacteristic haste. Upon reaching Mamalapuram, she was told that the ship bearing Vikraman had just set sail. What she saw on reaching the port was heartbreaking. A vessel with the lion flag had pulled away and was cruising along the shore. The Chora prince was standing on the deck, bound by ropes with his palms together in respect. His eyes were on the shore. Kundavi followed his gaze to see whom he was paying his respects to. A majestic-looking Shaivite sage with long braided hair was standing there with his right hand raised, blessing Vikraman. Kundavi looked at Vikraman. For a fleeting moment, his gaze seemed to meet hers. Just as Kundavi was wondering if she was imagining it, he turned again to face the sage. Kundavi remembered hearing that Vikraman's revolt was instigated by a sage. She thought it must be the same man. Could she catch him somehow? She asked her entourage to hurry towards him. The sage somehow had disappeared among the workers working at the dock. Eventually, Kundavi gave up the search. Meanwhile, the ship had sailed a long way. End of chapter 10.